Good evening. Please turn off your cell phones. Welcome to the October 6, 2021 regular meeting of Eureka Springs Historic District Commission. I'm Dee Bright, Chairman, and Steve, would you please do the roll call?
I'm Steve Holyfield. I'm President. Marty Cogan.
Here.
Maggie Haid.
Here.
Judy Holden.
Here.
Randy Maddox.
Here.
And Kyle Palmer.
Here.
We have a quorum for business. The Eureka Springs Historic District Commission is empowered by the Eureka Springs Municipal Code to issue a certificate of appropriateness for alterations of exterior architectural features, demolition, and new construction within the boundaries of Eureka Springs Historic District. The HDC uses Eureka Springs Historic District guidelines and the U.S. Department of Interior standards for rehabilitation of historic buildings as the basis for decisions. The Commission can take the following action on application of approval: approval with modifications, denial, deferral for more information. Appeal of denial may be made to the Circuit Court. Public comments will be heard on each agenda item as it is called. Other public comments are best addressed to the City Council. Okay, are there any changes or additions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, I'd like to put under discussion administrative approvals. Also, we need to approve the minutes for the September 15th meeting. And under consent agenda level 1, we need to add 33 Kings Highway.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Steve Hollifield made the motion. Judy Holden seconded to add one to the consent agenda and 2 items to commission business. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-0. Old business, we have level 2, 22 Pine, approval project spec change, porch dimension, and material wicker construction, applicant built odd owner. Level 2, 26 Amity, relocate fence, Jody Vanderwall, applicant. We have no new business. Do we have someone present for 22 Pine Street?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you state your name and address, please?
Yes, I am Elizabeth Carol Wicker, Wicker Construction, and my address is 20 Pine Street.
Okay. And you're representing
I'm representing Bill Ott.
22 Pine Street? Okay.
I have the citation here that states there was 2-foot unapproved extension by the HDC and unapproved material.
Okay, Kylie's going to read.
Oh, okay.
So the residence at 22 Pine Street is a circa 1897 National Folk-style home in saltbox form. The rear projection and open porch were likely later additions due to a difference in siding, which was noted in the 2001 architectural survey. The property is not individually significant architecturally or historically, but is contributing to the district. It should be noted that this property is only significant within a group context, and that was noted in the survey form. The applicant is seeking a certificate of appropriateness for the items that have been completed on this project, including a 1-foot extension in porch width and the addition of quarry face limestone wall, which is approximately 1 foot wide and 4 feet tall at the highest point. These changes are already in place, and the applicant is seeking approval to correct a code violation warning, which is included in attachments 3 and 4 of your packet.
Okay, and I have a couple of letters I need to read into the record. To HDC Commissioners, my name is Pat Masukis, and I filed a complaint on the recent work that happened as a result of an accident to the property at 22 Pine Street. Attached is the data for each of you to review. Hopefully, you will each have time to review and visit this location before the meeting tomorrow night. Additionally, if you have never seen this, I am including some pages from a procedural handbook for local historic district commissions published by the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program to assist in discussion and guidance. It has been a great reference tool for me over the years. Sorry for the condition of this. Thank you for your time, Pat Masukis. 22 Pine Street, this is still on her comments. The application for repairs and improvements for this property by owner/contractor designated as approvable by HDC preservation officers as a consent agenda item and submitted to the HDC was approved based upon the information provided by the applicant. The repairs and improvements performed do not reflect the description of the scope of work. The foundation supporting the porch was moved forward to meet the edge of the sidewalk. The framing and decking of the porch was extended in front of the support post of the upper porch and roof, and the steps were removed to face the side yard. This new construction significantly alters the former structure's alignment of the porch edge, the position of the handrail and centered steps, and breaks the simple symmetry of the building's facade in relationship with the sidewalk and street. Just a moment, I need to read a few comments here. Do you want me to read these, Kylie, what you have in?
No, that's just for your reference.
Okay. And then I have one other. 22 Pine Street, J. Wilkes. Dear HDC Commissioners, due to the change in my work schedule, I am unable to attend tonight's meeting, so I'm having Mr. Ott present you my email voice. My name is J. Wilkes. My husband Kevin and I live at 24 Pine Street next to Bill Ott's home. I was in the front yard the morning the city truck lost control and watched it plowed through Mr. Ott's front garden porch and over his gas meter. Since that disaster, all of the residents of Pine Street watched daily as the old broken fence and porch was removed and built back to the current beautiful home it is now. In speaking with my neighbors, none of us find anything wrong with the final product of Mr. Ott's home. The new limestone and wall addition to the front of his home matches the old limestone retaining walls and just adds more life to our street. Please approve this design of Mr. Ott's home. Thank you. J. Wilkes, 24 Pine Street, Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Okay, do we have a motion so we can have discussion?
I move that the Historic District Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the work at 22 Pine Street as proposed.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. Questions?
I'd like a brief, recounting of the story, especially in light of the in-kind characterization of the changes. Was that a clear question?
I don't know that I understand exactly.
I
Okay,
do have
when-
that, and that's what I'm prepared to
Okay.
analyze and help you with.
Okay, so my first question then is, from our perspective, what do we understand if something has been damaged, say, and it is to be repaired, or if something is to be replaced in kind? I have a view of an understanding of what I interpret that to mean, and I think we probably all do. But in this particular situation, whether this is in kind or not, I need some understanding from our perspective
Okay.
as members of the committee.
I think I know what you're asking.
Yeah.
So the background on this was placed on consent agenda. My logic behind doing that, even though there is a change in the porch orientation as it was described in the scope of work, was relatively minor considering the amount of damage that was done. And even though those changes were made, I feel like those are appropriate for the style and era of home. You were all provided with the full scope of work that Wicker Construction gave when they put this application through. And all of the changes that were not in kind were clearly outlined. It was my error that when I filled out this certificate of appropriateness, even though we all had that information on the front end, I wrote in kind. I shouldn't have done that because I know that has caused some confusion for folks. But really what it is there was a certificate of appropriateness issued by all of you for that entire scope of work as they presented it.
And that, so I'm looking at this right here, and I don't remember seeing this, but, so here is a typed up description of a scope of work with handwritten, extended 2 feet, steps, safety hazard. In other words, this was written on here.
By Elizabeth. That was an addition that she made after it was printed. That was included in that original packet.
Okay, so this was in the original
Yes.
application as part of the
Yes.
description, I see.
Yes,
So
on
if I
the
may ask-
original one, nobody took it off the consent, and looking back at my notes, it was unanimous, 5-0, was how it was voted that evening. And really what we're looking at tonight is the extension of the porch, the new part, because the one part was completely approved. We're looking at the part that was done that we did not approve.
Yes, so to be clear, the approved scope of work was altered in 2 ways. Dimensions, there was an additional 1 foot of porch decking.
I would say probably 2 if you include the stonework.
Yeah, that's my second part. So the second part is a material change and a dimension change with the addition of that limestone wall, which wasn't made very clear in the scope of work if it was intended to be included. I don't think that that was made clear to me and all of you. So when Bobby Ray and I went and evaluated this project on site together and went through line by line the scope of work, those were the 2 issues that we found. So that's what you guys need to make a decision on tonight.
So we're not addressing the fact that the original steps were moved?
They're not removed, they were just covered, and that's where I'm the one that totally messed up on the 2 feet. I had less than
That's
2 days to
immaterial-
get it done.
That's immaterial to me. We're skipping the fact that the original steps in the center of the porch were moved without permission.
No, that
No,
was
that was
included
in the scope of work.
I'm sorry?
That was in the scope of work.
That was in the original.
Uh-huh.
That
The-
they were being moved to the
Yes.
side?
Yes.
Oh, I
Well, they
wasn't-
weren't moved there just to be covered. And I'm the one that put the 2 feet in there and did not go back and reconfirm that length. But I did put in there that it was, extending the porch was to cover the deteriorating steps due to safety hazards, and Mr. Ott could walk straight in at the other entrance of his porch where there is no steps.
Correct, but wasn't the side entrance always there?
Yes, yes, we weren't changing any entrances, that's exactly right. But we wanted to extend the porch with the same look, the same appropriate facade, the same period-appropriate look from the street, and I think we achieved that. The 3 feet versus the 2 feet was totally my fault. I did not go back and reconfirm, but I did put in there that it was to cover, extend enough to cover the deteriorating steps.
Yeah, I don't have.
So it sounds like to me there was a major change in what they wanted to do to this property, but it was put on the consent agenda. So, right, instead of being put in on the regular agenda for us to discuss.
I don't
For-
But that's water under the bridge, right?
Yeah.
No, I just wanted
yes.
clarification for me.
Unfortunately, at this point, it is. With all consent agenda, anybody can pull that off
Right.
for discussion.
Right. So tonight, we're being asked to approve an extra foot.
Yes.
And a material
and
change.
material.
The underskirting was actually already rock, and when we redid the porch and extended, we could not find, you can't find the vintage rock, whatever it is. You just cannot find it. It was pushed underneath. So to have underskirting, you have to bring it up to the top of the porch for it to be aesthetically pleasing. So we replaced it with what was currently available in rock material that's conducive to the rest of our Eureka Springs.
And in 6 months, it'll start looking a little yuckier.
No.
With all the dirt and the rain, and, it gets, and then with, 2
It'll blend.
years, they just kind of
Right.
blend in.
It'll look like the rest of the rock that was there previously.
A few minutes ago, I think it was, you used the term a code violation.
That's what was issued to us. So that's what I'm asking.
What code in particular?
I don't know.
It was
listed as a
what
code
Bobby
violation.
Ray issued was a written warning for making these changes to the approved project without HDC approval.
So that's the code violation, was the approval process and not the construction itself. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
The construction is not necessarily a code violation.
No.
But it was the HDC and the COA.
Yes, that they didn't
The change.
have, that wasn't included in the COA, so theoretically, their building permit also doesn't cover that. So they're given a warning, and they have to come before you and get approval, and they have 30 days to remedy whatever is there. So, and to be clear, there were no other code violations. There's not any encroachment in public right-of-way or anything like that.
I mean, it is on item 1, page 13 of our packet. I know it's very difficult to read, but
Yeah.
a copy of the code violation.
You just passed it. That looks like a ticket.
Yeah, that's what I see. Yeah.
It's just hard for us to read it.
So under our guidelines, it says porches, 35A, porches on front and side facade should be maintained in their original configuration and with original materials and detailing.
Well, the old material is not available any longer.
But it also says here that the limestone wall would not have needed approval if the wall had been replaced to its original height of 2 inches.
That
That-
wall was already up to the deck previously, and you could see that it was pushed. And the picture that I submitted in the original certificate
Yeah.
shows that as well. To the right of the porch and to the left, you can see where it was pushed underneath the porch. And of course, putting in putting in an underskirting, you don't stop halfway up the wall, wherever that wall is. So if it was in an original height and position, it was at the top of the deck. So with the lay of the land, you don't stop midway going up with an underskirting.
So you're calling the porch a deck? Is that
We
correct?
did not alter the porch at all. We kept the post, the original railings, or we replicated the original railings, they were destroyed. But we kept the post in the same position. We kept the railings basically in the same position, we just moved them forward 3 feet. And we kept the underskirting just as it was. We could not maintain the ancient rocks and what was there before, so we replaced it with what currently we had to replicate the, what we had available to us. That is indicative of the rest of Eureka Springs.
So the wall is not attached to the porch?
Yes, and
Yes, it
areas.
is attached,
It's
or yes,
attached.
it's not attached.
It is attached with support beams.
Is it?
Yes. It goes up to the decking.
So
It is free-floating. It is freestanding.
it is freestanding.
But that's what the underskirting was before. It was freestanding. We replaced the supports underneath the porch with a solid concrete with rebar in it, so the porch would never fall down again.
So that's why you removed the steps, to accommodate the freestanding wall that you built?
No, no. The steps were deteriorating and a safety hazard for Mr. Ott and as well as pedestrians walking down the street.
But they could have been replaced. I understand we're not addressing the steps now, but I think that's part and parcel of this entire exercise.
Well, one of the things that we look at, and it's in the facts and questions of encouraging a better quality design with keeping with the, let me see my notes.
That's opinion, though.
Well, no, this was from your facts and questions. This is from the HDC. Encourages better quality design. So if we're keeping the current same appeal, same look, and I do have a picture of, you've got a picture of the old home,
Yes, we
and
do.
we've got a picture of the new home, and from the street, it looks the same,
No, it doesn't.
Except for the steps.
except for the missing steps.
Can I address the step issue? Madam
Yes.
Chairman? May I address the commission?
Yes, go ahead, Bill.
One of the reasons the steps were unsafe is when they put in the new sidewalks and gutters along Pine Street in front of my house, which cost me $1,500 to do years ago. They, the engineering caused where they put my driveway next to the power pole that has now been replaced because the old one was wiped out on when the truck hit it. But all the water runs up on the sidewalk now. It doesn't stay in the gutter. And that was rotting out those stairs. The stairs had been repaired several years ago, but they were just starting to rot out again. So it was very unsafe the way the gutter and the sidewalk is engineered for the water to run up on there. Now there will not be that problem. No one will be in danger of stepping on rotting boards on the stairs. The side entrance, which has always been there, is still there. And not only is it a better access for people like my male person, but also it makes it more ADA compliant, so to speak, because you can wheel up to the front of my house now.
But that was always there, sir,
That's
the
kind
side
of
entrance.
Yes, ma'am, the side entrance has always been there.
I want to stop a moment. Is there anybody else in the audience that wants to make a statement? I should have asked that after I read those letters. Would you come to the mic and state your name and address?
I don't see,
Hi, my name's Kevin Ruley. I live at 15 Pine Street. I am a retired architect, and I have done restoration work for about half of my career in New York and Boston and various other municipalities that have very well-established historical preservation programs. I think the biggest issue that I've got with that angst everyone has over removing the stairs is that they could not have been put back in a code compliant way. They did not comply with code in any acceptable riser tread proportion in the past. And the only way that could have been corrected was actually moving the top of the landing even closer to the front door. The other issue with it is with the pitch on the sidewalk, which is about 7 or 8%. The way the steps blended into the sidewalk was always going to be dangerous. So you had narrow treads, you had risers that were roughly the same proportion. You could not fit your entire foot on it. And it was awkward the way it came down. And to Bill's point, the way the city addressed the drainage there, it all flowed up onto the bottom of his steps. And every time we get a hard rain, it's a river on his side of the street. So, I look at it as porches are always designed in the context of the house and where it's placed. There is no normal, there is no, the fact that the steps lined up with the front door in the first place made it symmetrical, but it never made it safe. It was never safe. There was no handrail on it, and it didn't meet code. So I think it improves the property, it makes it safer, and it doesn't detract from it. The details of the house are precisely as they were. The scale and proportion of the house is precisely as it was. The stone wall will age over time, as all new limestone will when you put it in place. So I see nothing objectionable to what was done. And if the rules can't be interpreted in such a way to make a property safe, then we're not doing the right thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, does anyone the commissioners have other questions of
Yeah, one more
Wicker
question.
Construction? Oh, we have somebody else that wants to talk?
Yes.
Then come and state your name and, sorry.
Thank you for hearing me. I am Pat Matsoukas, and I'm at 5 Mountain Street, 40-some years. I was here before there was an HDC. Before any of this ever existed, we were all here. The HDC came in with a guarantee that we could all do better for each other. And that meant we had to discuss projects before they happened. We had to ask permission instead of forgiveness. And it's disappointing to me that we don't understand. I hope that you do, because when I drove down Pine Street a few weeks ago and saw this, I thought, well, surely somebody knows about this and is saying something. How could this happen? How did this go from consent agenda? You guys approved it because you see a consent agenda folder, which in your busy lives, you just went, oh, look, there's 5 things, blah, 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 and it passed. Handwritten stuff came in. You really don't know when that happened. You're only getting your word for it, Kylie, which you're the new girl, honey, and I am sorry that you're being thrown under the bus here, because the truth is our city council person knew better. Having said that, I want to go back to what this land pattern use is, because we're not just talking about a house here. We're talking about how it impacts its neighborhood. And when you walk down Pine Street, as you walk down many streets in town, the thing that connects every house, even though they're different, the thing that connects all of us is a front porch that's welcoming, a staircase that says, come up and visit. That house had it in spades. Years ago, when I first came here, it did have a railing. The railing disappeared at some point in time. No one was ever made to take care of it. Everything that they are saying about water running, all these things are probably true, but the question is that what we want? Is that where we should be with the land pattern use on houses on Pine Street? Houses need to be friendly and talk to each other. This house sits out there, that 2 feet coming out plus another foot of wall, that's 3 feet. 3 feet more that porch and the wall come out to. It's not very welcoming. And I appreciate the fact that you guys all have to look at this and deal with this. And I'm sorry that I had to be the one to file the complaint, because it really broke my heart that no one else stood up. But we have to either, if you're going to be an HDC, be an HDC, or else let's get rid of it again. Let's take it back to the polls, because either we be good neighbors to each other and take care of our stuff, or we don't. And asking forgiveness instead of permission is a bad way to do it. I thank you for your time and appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, does any of the commissioners have other questions for Wicker Construction or Mr. Ott?
I wasn't here because I was away, but I don't see where they mention moving the steps. I'm sorry if I'm focused
Well,
on
you're
the
not,
steps.
you don't have that packet because that's not what we're looking at tonight. The
So-
original packet you don't
No,
have.
I don't.
Because
But-
tonight,
But I have the scope of work, and it does not mention moving the steps from the center of the porch to not having them.
It
The
was
scope
writ-
of work, apparently, this is Wednesday, July 7th, when they had the consent agenda, and there is a scope of work presented by Wicker Construction, and I don't see that moving the steps was an issue.
So the attachment 4 is the approved scope of work from July 7th. It's on page 15 of your packet. That entire paper, including the handwritten amendment by Elizabeth Wicker, is what was handed to me when she submitted that application. The very first thing, she added extended 2 feet, steps, safety hazard, enter porch on west end, no steps. And then if you look at, well, I guess I didn't provide the rendering in your packet, but the rendering did clearly show that the steps were eliminated.
Yeah, that's a perennial problem.
Can you please explain to me how you got the porch from 2 feet to 4 feet?
It's actually a foot more than what I had said, and I'm clearly at that,
Plus the limestone, which is another foot, so it's
well,
4
that's
feet.
about a half a foot, about 6 inches, but. Where we went to that was in,
The limestone that you're talking about is flush with the front.
I'm sorry,
Wait a
sir, I
minute.
can't hear you.
you have to come to the mic, Bill.
The limestone that you're mentioning is flush with the front of the porch.
Now it is, yes,
Yes, ma'am.
of course.
Yes, ma'am. So it's not an additional foot, it's there at the front of where the porch was. And that was the foot that Mrs. Wicker was talking about.
All right, then if it's not 2 feet, we'll go back to 1 feet. But why was the 1 foot?
I need to make a clarification. When Bobby and I went there, we measured exactly. There is an additional 1 foot of decking beyond what was approved.
Okay.
And the limestone wall does sit beyond that 1 foot. So you have more than a 1 foot dimensional change here.
But it was mentioned it's flush with the sidewalk. There's no infringement
But
on
that wasn't told to us at the
on the
beginning.
sidewalk right away.
Yeah, where the stone was before the stone.
You got the microphone.
In the photos, the additional photos that I did supply, it clearly shows that there was the stone wall all the way up to the decking,
Yep.
to the right of the steps, and you can see that it is not, it's just a underskirting, and all the way out to the sidewalk.
Correct.
As well as when we did extend the deck, and I take full responsibility for that extra foot, I really do.
Well, that's good to hear.
I know, I'm sorry, it was an emergency, and I came up with a rendering, and I approximated the 2 feet, and I did not go back and reconfirm it, and that's totally my fault. We try to keep our homes appropriate to Eureka Historic District. I'm sorry, I got told, blustered. The rock that was there before did come up to the decking, to the side. I'm on the left side now. On the left side, it did go all the way across and underneath. So we didn't change the actual look of the home. We only brought the underskirting forward.
But you changed the look by moving the steps. That's my point.
Can we
So what do you
compare
have to
the
say
old
about
home
mine?
look? If you stand from, and I did, I took a picture from,
I don't have a picture of the original.
Well, you do in your packet.
I think the clarification here is that they,
so our whole neighborhood,
Just a moment. We are talking tonight about extension of the porch.
Right, I understand that, but you can't separate one from the other. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, our description of proposed work, we have to go with that on your page down there.
I think part of the confusion here is that on the old picture on page 7, it shows, you can't always see it, but I assume there's rock work there, but it's flush with the porch. With the new construction, the rock work actually comes out and sticks out from the porch. So that's why it adds additional depth to it. So, and it changes the look of it, too.
I don't have that.
See what I mean?
The incident that happened on May 18th when the city truck took out the front of my house and completely tore the front, as you're facing the house from the street, the front left corner, took out the entire foundation.
Coming out.
There were concrete blocks under there and all that stuff. I know that I moved into that house in 2002, and I knew at that point in time the whole house needed a lot of exterior work done to it. I knew that I wouldn't be able to afford that. In fact, the money that I could put towards the house, I put towards having the house paid for before I retired, which was at the end of October of last year. I was very happy that the house was indeed able to be paid for and no mortgage by the time I did it. You know, I now look back at that incident on May 18th when the truck took it out as a blessing, because I was able to make my home look as beautiful as some of the other homes up and down Pine Street and throughout the historic district. I mean, I'm very appreciative that my house now will be an asset not only to my neighborhood, but to the district. And so I'm just, you know, my hope, my prayer is that you guys will see that it is a better home today. It is a bigger asset to the district and to the neighborhood, and that I can, you know, obtain your approval for this item tonight, and then enjoy my home and watch people drive by and say, yeah, that looks a lot better than it did. So I just wanted to put that into the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are you guys ready to vote? Or do you have any other questions? All in favor of approving this, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I'm going to do a roll call. Judy?
No.
Randy?
Present.
Steve?
No.
Marty?
No.
Maggie?
No.
Kyle?
Yes.
We have 1 yes, 4 noes, 1 present. Motion fails. Do you guys have any suggestions?
So the next steps for this would be, for the applicant, they can appeal this decision to court, or if you all would like them to remove the stone wall, that's an option. If you'd like them to push it back to the previous approved project, that's an option. But I think, to be fair to them, we need to give them a little bit of direction here.
Then I would say we approved a scope of work before, and that is what we said is doable, is acceptable.
I want to go back just a moment, just for the person who does our minutes. Steve made the motion, Kyle made the second before we voted, just for her clarification, since we had so much discussion from the beginning to the end. So do we go on to the next? And
I guess so, if you don't have any other comments besides Randy's comment, I will get with the code enforcement officer and the applicants, and we will figure out what their next steps need to be. All right. Thank you, Elizabeth.
26 Amity, do we have anybody present for 26 Amity, Relocate fence? Jody Vanderwall, applicant. You want to state your name and address, please?
Jody Vanderwall, 26 Amity.
Okay, Kylie's going to read.
So we discussed this at the last meeting. One of the biggest issues that was before us was that the existing fence was located in public right-of-way and within a utility easement. Jody has come to an agreement with Public Works and the building official to remedy that. So what she is here today is to get a certificate of appropriateness to install 4 sections of welded wire fencing with metal posts to enclose her garden areas. These will be pushed back to the appropriate dimensions as required by Public Works. The guidelines do allow the use of welded wire as agricultural fencing for areas of 1,000 square feet or less. The 4 garden areas in total measure only 612 square feet currently, and that is with the encroachment and the easement. So once she pushes that back, the square footage will be more minimal. And Randy made an excellent point at the last meeting about the intent of a fence. And I think in working with Jody and seeing how, really what this project is, it is to be garden fencing. So I think that's an important thing to consider at this time. I did give you a paper of a couple different proposals. Obviously, the most ideal option for the applicant is just to move the existing fence back. But she did supply 2 other options that she thinks might be a good fit.
May I ask how high this fence will be?
Just a moment, we don't have a motion for discussion yet.
Sorry.
May I have a motion for discussion?
I move that the historic district, I'm sorry. I'll pass. Go ahead, Steve.
That's fine. I move the Historic District Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the work at 26 Amity as proposed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion now, Judy.
Just the one question, please. Do you know how high the fence will be?
Currently, the corner garden and the middle garden, welded wire fencing is 42. The far garden is 84, and I believe that's too high. So what I thought to do was to take the top layer off and make it 42. In addition, above that 42, I do have to use the fishing line to keep the deer out, but the welded wire fencing will be at 42.
And the fishing line would then extend how much?
I believe another like 3 feet, so 7 feet.
So that's your answer, it would be 3 feet?
Yes.
Okay.
Won't a fishing line strangle the deer?
I didn't understand you.
Will the fishing line strangle the deer, is what she asked.
Currently, it's been up in the middle garden for a year now, and I haven't had a deer even try to go over. And my neighbor across the street, Paula, she's using bamboo and just fishing line, and that's one reason I went with the welded wire, because they're still poking their head through on the lower area. But on the upper area, they don't seem to be bothering it at all. It's, in 15 years, the only thing I have found that's working. I've tried everything. I've tried deer netting, I've tried spray.
We all have deer in Eureka Springs.
I know, I'm just
They were here
explaining.
before we were.
Yeah, I'm just explaining. I just want to grow my vegetables, you know.
That's fine, but we don't really need to discuss all the deer issues.
Yeah.
But I want to discuss the fishing line is not really considered a fence. It's just temporary placement of an invisible barrier, I mean, because it's hard to see. So it's not a permanent fence, unlike...
But you're saying it's temporary, is that the word that you use?
Yeah, it's temporary, so, I mean, it's easily cut down, it's just stuck up there and stuff. People use it all over town, it's very common, and I don't know if anybody else has to ask for permission to put up.
Well, that raises a question for me about then what are we approving something temporary then?
Well, the welded wire is permanent.
Right, but would we be approving something temporary or temporarily?
We are
Only approving the...
approving the style of the fence, what is appropriate.
The welded wire, right.
So the welded wire is her preference. She's given us 2 others. If you're,
May I say something?
yes,
May I say something?
yes,
The other reason I went with the fishing line was to avoid putting the fence higher, you know, instead of just having all fencing there. I wanted it so that I could still keep the deer out, but you could still see through and it not look so bad, you know.
Kylie, do we even address fishing line? Because that's not one of our,
The guidelines don't say anything about fishing line.
so I don't think that's really something we need to even discuss. We need to discuss the appropriate fencing material.
So it's only the fencing material.
That's what
It's
we're
not-
supposed to be.
It's not the fact that the current fence extends into the right-of-way.
She has already made something with the building official and with the Public Works. They have told her what she needs to do there,
Okay,
but she wants to know from us about the fencing material
Okay.
before she takes it down, what she can use. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think there's an important question here, though, that I don't want to slip through the cracks, and that is, I'm just going from memory of a few weeks ago of driving by and all, but as far as the amount of area that's covered by this, so it was all the way up to the street, and now it's not, so that area is smaller. And so, and you just said a minute ago that we're talking about what square footage that will be contained by this fence that we are being asked to approve.
612 square foot on item 2, page 3,
Okay, that's great. And-
findings of facts, and it's down here. She wants to have 4 gardens measuring between 110 square feet and 216 square feet. So altogether, there's 612. She can have up to 1,000 of welded wire.
And the guidelines say, I'm reading here in section K, agricultural and barrier fencing may be used around individual gardens of 1,000 square feet or less without a COA.
The reason that we felt it was appropriate to revisit this with HDC is because it was such a complex issue. So really what Jody is doing here is just an effort of good faith to show that she's trying to comply with
Great, yes.
the right
yeah,
thing to do.
Right. And so, so you understand what I'm bringing here, and that is that the guidelines say that we don't need a COA, that it is not necessary for us to issue a COA for less than 1,000 square feet.
So under that spirit, if we said no, do we have even the right to say no?
I mean, in my understanding of this, not really.
No.
I know that one of the other reasons that we're here again is because last time there was a question of the purpose of the fencing. Is it perimeter fencing? Is it garden fencing? And I think that's kind of been enlightened over discussions of this
Right.
project.
Very
So
complicated. It's always
yeah.
been complicated and frustrating.
it's unfortunate that the garden fencing on her property has to be right on the front property line, but that's the only place with the geography of her lot and the canopy that she can put those gardens.
But the guidelines, even when they discuss garden fencing, don't say where those gardens are supposed to be.
Correct.
So she has all the right to do that.
Yeah,
Without coming here.
Right.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, in that, Steve made the motion, Judy seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
New business, we have none. Consent agenda, our Level 1, 22 Pine project spec change, black decorative steel fence, Wicker Construction applicant, Bill Ott, owner.
What's her name?
And then the one that we added to it,
I just was trying to get,
oh,
I couldn't think of her name, her first name. Thank you.
Jody.
But she was leaving without the COA.
Oh. Okay, Level 1, 33 Kings Highway, add supports to door, remove non-historic gable vent, and cover with scalloped shingles and exterior light to match existing. Donna Downson, owner. And those are our consent. Marty, would you pass this down to
Oh, I'm sorry.
Kyle? Thank you. Those are the consent. Do I have a motion? Did everybody see the folder?
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Steve made the motion. Maggie seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
To which one? We have two. So I need to break them out. I'm
There was
sorry,
number
guys.
1.
Let me break them out. We need to vote on them separate. Level 1, 22 Pine. Is it okay, Steve and Maggie, to use that for your, okay. Steve made the motion, Maggie seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
We're talking about 22 Pine and the fence replacement, right?
Yes, the back.
Opposed.
So the motion carries 5-1. And then level 1, 33 Kings Highway. I need to add the supports and the door to remove. I passed that back, so I don't have it all written down. Remove non-historic gable vent and cover with scallop shingles. Add exterior light to matching existing Donna Townsend owner. Do I have a motion for that?
I move we accept agenda item number 2 under consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
D.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Administrative approvals by City Preservation Officer. Applicants for repair and work involving no changes in materials, plus changes in roofing, paint colors, and signs. 1 through 11 are all level 1s. 34 North Main, repair retaining wall. 104 South Main, replace porch and walkway in kind. 34 East Mountain, paint color. 3 Kings Highway, re-roof. 7 Armstrong, re-roof. 16 Eureka, 6-month extension, paint color, repair, siding. 7 Echoes, re-roof. 34 North Main, install mini-split HVAC. 81 Spring, repaint pole for sign. 12 Washington, repair fence, gate, repair deck and stairs, repaint. 33 Council, replace porch railing. Okay. The next 2, 12 and 13, are level 2s. 180 North Main, 6-month extension, 3rd floor, fire escape installation, finished parking area. 8 Angle, 6-month extension, add windows, stairs, HAVC screen, storage unit. Commissioner business. We have added, well, let's do the approval of the minutes from September 15th, 2021.
I move we accept the minutes for September 15th, 2021.
Second.
Steve made the motion, Judy seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, everybody was aye. Kyle was not here, so we have a 5-0 because he was not on the commission yet. Okay, now we have a discussion of administrative approvals. These are already approved by Kylie. They'll be put on our agenda just as, I mean, you'll still continue putting them on like we see. So they're on the agenda, But nowhere does it state that we need to read them at the table because they're on the agenda, people can read them. What are your thoughts of doing away with reading them at the table?
Is there any advantage to reading them?
No, it's already in the record on the agenda.
Then
Except that we are speaking publicly to people who don't have access to that.
everybody has access to the agenda, right?
I mean, it's posted on the city website.
Yeah. All our meeting stuff has to be posted.
So if we want, for example, if we wanted to ask you a question on, say, number 11, replace porch railing, do you have all the information of what they're replacing it with?
Not with me, but in my office, yes, I have the complete application. So I think that the most appropriate way to answer those questions is just one-on-one
Okay.
after the fact, because administrative approvals are already approved. So,
And that's a big point, it's already approved, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not like there's anything we can do about it.
Because like
Yeah.
if we go back up here to 7 Armstrong, it's been approved. They just finished that roofing yesterday, or finished it up early this morning, but, it's even finished.
And that's, I would point out the difference between the consent agenda and administrative approvals. Consent agenda, we could still pull and say,
exactly.
we want
yeah.
to discuss, you have the file here, it's
Yeah.
not been approved yet, right? And
Yes.
we can pull it and discuss it as,
Mhm.
put it on new business. But the administrative approval's already been approved, they've already got the go-ahead.
Yep.
It's just listing it.
But it will still remain just like this sheet, which is posted on the city website, so everybody can still read it. Nothing like that changes. We just won't read it at the table if we all agree. That's up to you guys.
My question is, I see there are 3 6-month extensions. I know that in the past, we have given people 6-month extensions and then another 6-month extension, and there doesn't seem to be any follow-through as to how many 6-month extensions they can get. So will that be addressed at some point?
I think that that would be addressed as we're revising the guidelines and procedures for the commission.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought there was a
Because
limit.
I think it's important to do that.
Well,
They can only get up to 1 year before they have to reappear before HDC, is how that is supposed to work.
But there, there are no repercussions if they don't do the work within the allotted time?
we're kind of off of what's,
You can't make them do the work.
Yeah. There's-
I know there's
I mean, if
house
you,
near where I live, and it's a safety, a true safety issue, because every time it rains, rocks fall into the street. And they were given an extension, and nothing's happened.
yeah, that probably goes beyond the scope of our commission.
yeah, and what we can discuss tonight, but
Yeah.
Okay.
I
It's
think-
something you
I think
can
if
pull.
it's becoming a nuisance structure or it's unsafe, that is a code enforcement issue, not
Exactly.
an HDC issue.
We have to remind
Yeah,
ourselves, people
I
have,
agree, it's a code issue.
people have things in their lives happen. COVID with material shortages now, people have medical issues come up where they can't work on stuff. We've seen it all, and there's some legit reasons why extensions are necessary.
well, I know number 13, she's waiting on the contractor to put the window in. She can't, because she mentioned that to me a couple of months ago. So when I saw this, I'm assuming she's still having that issue of the contractor, and, they can't do it till the contractor's there, so.
And we can discuss the extension issue
Yeah, we
further
can-
at the next meeting if you
Yeah,
all
we
would
can
like.
put it under Commissioner Businesses the next meeting. I think we talked about it as much as we really can without it being on the agenda tonight.
Somebody's raising a hand.
No, not now, because it's on each item, and we need to take a motion and a vote first.
I move that we suspend reading out the administrative approvals by the chair of the commission and just have it listed there, and it's made a public record on the website anyway. So.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Steve made the motion, Kyle made the second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next meeting, October 20th, 2021. Level 3 applications due Thursday, October 7th, 2021. Level 2 applications due Wednesday, October 13th, 2021. Commissioner comments? Judy?
No comment?
Randy?
Nothing from me.
Steve?
Nothing. No, I'm good.
Marty?
No.
Maggie?
No.
Kyle?
No.
Welcome, Kyle, to the
welcome,
meeting. I welcomed you last
yeah.
time and you weren't here, so welcome. Kylie?
I don't have much. I'm excited to have Kyle on HDC with all of you.
And Miss,
Okay, now you come and state your name and all again, please.
Marilyn Monroe? No, just kidding.
I can't see out there.
Yeah.
I thought you died.
Pat Matsoukas, Mountain Street. About 8 months ago, I called Glenna and said to Glenna, I want to know how to come talk to the HDC, and that's when I found out that we no longer had public comments. You could only speak to
We've
it.
never had public comments, it's just on each item. I've been on it for 17 years, we've never had comments.
There was a time,
Not in my 17 years.
well, in my 40, maybe.
Okay.
But having said that, I said to Glenna, how do I talk to the commission? She said, you'll have to wait until they schedule a workshop. Because my biggest concern with HDC is not just about individual properties, but how those properties look in relation to the neighborhood they're placed in. We've all seen great examples of good building, and we've all seen bad examples of a house that doesn't look like it belongs where it is. And that's where you, the fabulous HDC, get to ask for conceptual drawings of how it's going to look in its neighborhood. You have the right to ask all these things. You have the right to make us do that, and I wish that you would, because it would guarantee a better return. And I applaud you tonight for your decision. I know that none of this is easy, and I'm sorry that you guys got being made to be the bad guys instead of where it should be. So having said that, thank you, and I would like to see you do put public comments back on or open up your hearts to doing it, number one. Number two, I just learned that you that you don't do site visits anymore because there seems to be a disagreement about how to record those meetings. And in thinking about this in other situations, what we have done in other times is each of the commissioners does their own individual site visit,
That's what we are doing now.
and then the chair asks the question of each commissioner and says, did you do a site visit? So it's on the record whether they did or did not do that. So you have a follow-up to what you're asking.
We get our packets on Friday before our meetings. That gives us, this week we got them on Thursday, so it gave us Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to do site visits. And
Right, and that's
today.
not enough time for some of the stuff that goes on. I absolutely understand that. And, you know, there are things that can be delayed. If you don't have time to do a site visit, you have the right to say, you know, we need another 2 weeks because we're not quite ready to look at this yet.
And we've done.
But I would like to see a vote at the table for each of you when you do a site visit so that it's on the record that you did it or that you didn't have time, whatever it is, so that we're all on the same page about what's happening here. I was very surprised when I filed this complaint to find, I didn't know if you all had been informed at the moment that I filed the complaint. I know that Kylie knew because I had put it to the HDC. I automatically assumed it was going to go to all of you. I don't know if it made it to all of you, except later. But I just want a better way of communicating with this. And so that's why I say open up public comment. You know, there's only people like me around. There's not a whole plethora of us, but there are people that care. And so we're looking at it. And I thank you and have a lovely evening.
Thank you. Do we have an adjournment?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Oh, hold on.
A citizen.
Wait,
is it-
Bill.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
State your name.
Oh, Bill Ott.
We got to remember Ann's doing minutes, and she
Okay.
can't see us out here.
Bill Ott, 22 Pine Street, Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
Thank you.
The thing I wanted to state is that, you know, everyone wants our town to look good, to look better, to look nice for people to come in. We all want it to be historic for historic appropriate buildings, and also we want it to look like the neighborhoods. I was reading an article in a former independent newspaper article, and there was a quote in there that said, "Who are we as a town when we say you have to move out of town if you can't afford to maintain your property? It is beneath us all as human beings, it is beneath Eureka. If you want people to come live here, we have to be the best we can as neighbors to each other." I could not afford to fix my home. The city truck, when it tore out the front of my house, allowed my home insurance to come back and make it look as it is. I don't know if y'all have pictures of my home, but I don't know if you've driven by to see it or not. But I think it's an asset to my neighborhood, as some of my neighbors have already stated. I think it's an asset to the historic district. And by the way, that quote that I just read came from a lady named Pat Matsoukas. Thank you.
Okay, does, Steve made the motion for adjournment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Randy made the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 6-0.